Jeremy S. Cook here, and today I'll be going over my light following robot. Robot's maybe a bit of an exaggeration here, because really it's just two motors being turned by some LDR resistors, or light dependent resistors I should say. Either side it kind of follows the light, it gets more resistance on one side or the other. So first thing I had to do was take apart this toy truck. You can see here the axles are actually bent. But yeah, I took the wheels off of those bent axles and then drilled them out for the motors that I'll be using. It's a nice press fit on there. That worked really well. So after that I decided to make the slot for it so that the motors could sit in there. Got some real positive feedback using a drill chuck for milling operations, so you'll have to let me know what you think about that in the comments. But anyway, after that I used a hole saw to make the body of it. Order here was important so I could fixture it first with the whole thing. I didn't cut through the whole piece of MDF because I had nothing under it at the time, so I cut the rest of that out with my knife here. Had to do quite a bit of deburring on this because I just cut through the whole thing with it in just one pass. But looked pretty good after that. Fit the motors perfectly. Putting those wheels on again. And that looked pretty good. So the next thing I did was I took my CR203 batteries, traced it out with a marker, and then went down and just cut it out with a milling machine. You can see my CNC machine in the background, so I guess I could have just designed it all and just had it cut out automatically, but I'm just kind of doing this as I went along, and that worked out okay. So yeah, I fit the battery in there. That looked pretty good. And then it was time to do some soldering with my solder fixture. I'll put a link to that in the description. That went pretty well. Nice to have some good tools to do this with. So there's one of the LDRs that I put on. And with that hooked up, see it's turning the motor. So I had to actually put it reverse of each other. You can see it kind of drawn out here. You've got 3 LDRs on one side and 3 on the other. Eventually I put 3 on because one wasn't quite providing enough juice to the batteries. But you can see they're feeding, the right one is feeding the left motor, left package of LDRs is feeding the right motor. That worked out pretty well, so it's actually following the light rather than running from it. So the next step was to make something to connect the batteries up. I didn't use a traditional battery holder like you might have seen elsewhere, but this is actually more like my heat shrink tubing battery pack that I'll link that one too. But this thing actually goes underneath the 2 batteries, fixtures it from the back, and then the top will be connected to the breadboard. Kind of worked out pretty nicely. Some more connections there. And more soldering. So let's see how that fits in one more time. So the voltage checked out, and with everything done there, it was time to actually hot glue the motors on. So I held that down for quite a while. And then the other one. Took a bit longer than I'm showing here, but you don't want to sit here and watch the glue dry, literally. Then I glued the wires in there, and then as you saw before, they're reversed, so sandwiched that down with the breadboard. First the wires, and then it was time to put the batteries in once more. So the positive would go to one side, and the negative would go to the other. I guess they're both positive, but basically the common in the middle went from the positive battery side to each of the LDRs. On the other side, the blue wires actually go to each of the motors, the opposite motors. So after that, you can see it's working here. Hot glued that down. Not too good if I want to change the batteries later, but I guess I'll have to deal with that later. And I found that the one light dependent resistor was too slow. So initially I put a second one on as seen, and eventually I'll add a third. So here's some little tests here. I'm testing it out kind of slow, but looks a lot better at 4 times speed. Yeah, it looks really fast. Again, it's not that fast in real life. But this is actually real speed here with the 3 resistors on, which I eventually settled on. So yeah, it looked pretty good. So here's another view of it. This is pretty much all there is to this project. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you like what you saw, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, thumbs up, leave a bad comment even, whatever you want. Thank you so much for watching. Jeremy S. Cook, signing off.